Hi, family faith formation. That's what we're here to talk about today. What exactly is it? Well, it's a model of religious education that refers to gathering our families together in a whole new way. When it's implemented successfully, family faith formation serves to accomplish a few different goals. It begins the faith conversation in the parish and brings it into the home. It allows us to model faith behavior for our families, and it brings all of our participants into closer communion with Jesus. So let's look at each one of these. The faith conversation. Family faith formation enables a fruitful faith conversation to begin that will eventually find its way into the home. As you meet with families, you will help them to explore concepts that are pertinent to their lives as Catholics. This approach relies on the fact that as you present material during faith events, parents will take it in, process it, and then help their child or children to understand it at his or her own stage of faith development. You are getting rid of the typical religious education follow-up question during the car ride home. We all know the one. So, what did you learn today in religious ed? And then the response, if your car's anything like mine, nothing really. We all know that's not true, right? So, family faith formation should help parents to understand, when we do it well, that we are their partners, because it is ultimately them who will be helping and guiding their children to learn about their faith. What we're talking about here is making parents our partners and making them our priority. It may seem like a foreign concept and even a bit counterintuitive to the way that we're used to doing things during religious education. But focusing on parents allows us to impact kids in a more meaningful and lasting way. But focusing in on adults is not an easy shift to make. In fact, for many of us, it's probably outside of our comfort zone, but it is key. We actually have a mandate from the National Directory for Catechesis. We read that catechesis of adults is the principal form of catechesis because it is addressed to the persons who have the greatest responsibilities and capacity to live the Christian message in its fully developed form. We may feel responsible for the children in our parishes, but if we truly want to do what's best for their faith development, this is our best way to serve them. When parents can be made to understand a teaching of the faith, when they are given a model in the words for communicating the faith, they will be able to help their children understand at their varying levels of maturity and faith development. So what does that mean practically speaking? We need to make sure that we provide enough material, give them enough understanding so that parents are comfortable continuing the faith conversation outside of parish walls. The second goal of family faith formation is to share our faith content like we've been doing in religious education, but it is the perfect opportunity for us to model faith behavior. Things that used to be a normal part of life for a Catholic family are not often on a household's radar screen in today's fast-paced culture. For example, prayer. How many of us remember getting down on our knees at night before we went to sleep? I wonder how many of our families still do that. We can model Mass behaviors during our programming to help our families understand how we exhibit reverence in God's house and kind of help to explain to them Mass postures. Why do we sit? Why do we stand? Why do we genuflect? The sacraments. Practicing the sacraments are a less important part of the lives of many of our families. And sadly, even when they are included in the list of family priorities, they are not always properly understood. We can offer information and model behaviors that help families improve their practice of the sacraments within their families. We can and should be modeling characteristics and attributes that are typically Christian, that we're called to exhibit, like living lives of kindness and patience and mercy and love. This kind of behavior is actually getting to be a little bit countercultural as well. So we must model this in how we hold ourselves personally as we lead families in programming, and hold people to these expectations when they are within our walls. Just like kids look to parents in the home, in the faith formation environment, whether we like it or not, or agree with it or not, we are being watched. We are considered to be the experts in faith formation, and what we say and what we do matters. So we must be careful with our words and our actions. We can model moral decision making by giving very tangible examples of how our faith can guide life choices. Prime opportunities for this come up regularly when we're talking about current events, during Respect for Life Month, in regard to voting, when we're covering social justice. And lastly, and maybe most radically, we can model silence. Our third goal is to bring families into closer communion with the person of Jesus, to help them cultivate a deeper relationship with their Lord. Again, this is going to involve teaching some content, but that's just a part of it. We need to offer opportunities for our families to experience Jesus in different ways, through service, mercy, healing, love, prayer, word, and sacrament. We also need to do what we can to get our families to Mass. But the trick here is to empower them to come to that conclusion on their own. These three goals are a lot to undertake. In order for it to be doable, we need to educate ourselves on both content and technique. We need to operate within supportive networks of colleagues, and we need to do what we can to really get to know our families. We must understand how they live, what their interests are, both individually and as a group. What sports are big with them? What hobbies are popular? Where do they spend their time? What do they value? When we know them, we can make our programming personal and speak to their hearts and bring their hearts closer to their God. We always need to remember that we are a tool that God is using. We know that it can sometimes take years and decades to see the fruits of our labors bloom and blossom, but eventually they will. In the meantime, we need to trust, let ourselves be guided by the Holy Spirit. Thank you, and God bless you all in your ministry.